Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're located. This is Mel White from Classic Exhibits, and thank you very, very much for joining us today for the blogging webinar. This is kind of Revenge of the Blog, or Blogging 102 for those who participated in the Blogging 101. The webinar is sponsored by Classic Exhibits and Optima Graphics. I'm joined today by Tim Patterson from Communication One, or many of you may know Tim better as the Trade Show Guy blog, or he has a very prolific blog out, an enormous amount of stuff as far as social media. He's always my go-to guy when I have questions about Twitter or Facebook or any of the social media marketing on the market out there. So most of the session here today is going to be Tim. I'm going to kind of chime in when I feel like I can contribute during the presentation, but I'm going to turn you over to Tim. As you have questions, feel free to use the questions or the chat portion of GoToMeeting, and we will answer those either in the course of the webinar itself if we have a chance, or we'll answer them at the very end. And again, thank you very much for joining us. And Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
All right, thank you, Mel. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. Is my voice coming through, first of all?
I think it's coming through great.
Okay, good. I want to make sure. So yes, we've gone on blogging, and just like a 30-second capsule review of what I've done in blogging. I got wind of blogging several years ago and set up Trade Show Guy blog. We'll take a look at the back office here at some point of what Trade Show Guy blog is. I did that, I'm going to say, about 4.5 to 5 years ago. I think it was actually 2009 I set the blog up, and so I've learned a lot over the years, made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of blogging, a lot of intense blogging, and kind of backed off a bit, but it's been a regular thing for me for a long, long time. So it's a fun thing to do, and it really has helped brand me in the industry. I've certainly gotten speaking gigs off of it. I've got a few jobs off of it. So it's really good that I've done this. I do not regret it at all. I'm really glad I started doing it and kind of jumped in. I've always had a kind of an itch to write about what I've experienced along the way. So let's take a look at what we've got with blogging. First of all, you got to remember this about blogging. Blogging is one of those things that if you want to get involved, it is going to be one of those commitments that you make. It's not something to be taken lightly. On the other hand, it is a really valuable thing you can do, and some people say that a blog is the most valuable piece of real estate that you can have in your industry online. It's even more valuable than your website. It's more valuable than Facebook in a lot of cases, more valuable than Twitter and all those other things. So it's a very valuable piece of your social media. It's really kind of a piece of social media. It ties everything together, and we'll talk about why as this goes along. First of all, is blogging still relevant? Well, number one, you own your own blog. The main issue here is that with Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all those other outlets that you have to get information out there, they're in control. The owners are in control. You're not in control. In your own blog, you are very much in control of what you do with all of those pieces. You own the look of it, you own the feel of it, you own the content of it, you own the URL, which is how people find you. So that's probably the most important thing. Blogging certainly is relevant, and a lot of people still read blogs. There are a lot of popular blogs out there, and we'll talk about that as well. Here are just a couple of blogs that I ran across. Blogs are a lot of fun. Of course, Trade Show Tales is there from Classic Exhibits. My blog, Trade Show Guy blog, is up there. I ran across a couple. Just wanted to get some screenshots of them, put some blogs, screenshots in there so you can see what people are doing with blogs out there. I don't know if you've heard of Anders, the infotainer. He does a lot of trade show stuff. He's in the upper left-hand corner. In fact, Anders I think just ran one of my blog posts on his blog recently and interviewed me for a podcast, so we trade things back and forth. So I thought I'd mention him along the way. So what do you get with your blog when you jump into blogging? A lot of different things that I think are worth considering. And we're going to this particular webinar with the understanding that you are either committed to a blog, or you have a blog, or you're just about to start one, and you're just kind of figuring out, okay, what's the next step, and do I really want to get involved, or yes, or how do I get involved for sure? First of all, your blog is your platform. This is where you can hold forth on anything you want. It also gives you a good chance to let people see what you are all about. And so platform is probably one of the most significant things you can get with your blog. It helps you network. People can find you. I have met people through blogging that I would not have met otherwise for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's been very valuable for networking. And I think if you're proactive about that, it can be even more valuable. People do find you, people do contact you, especially if you have good content that is worth reading, and so we'll talk about that as well. You can learn a lot from your blog. Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
I was going to say, it's been fascinating to me when I go to industry events how many people will approach me, people who I'm not even familiar with, who may not even be distributors of classic exhibits, who will come up and introduce themselves and say that they actually read our blog and that they're familiar with certain articles. They'll talk to me about some of the posts that are out there. I have met so many people through the blog at industry events that the outreach on that is just amazing.
It really is, and I've experienced the same thing. And when I tell people I'm a trade show guy at shows, I'm surprised at how many people go, "Oh, I know who you are. I've read your blog," and I'm kind of amazed at that sometimes. It's back, you know. I mean, you go back to my earlier career of 25 years in radio. It was interesting to be recognized in radio. Different thing, but being recognized on the street is good, and because of who you are. So one of the other things I think you get out of blogging is when you're writing about your industry, you learn about it. You really become more educated to what's going on because you're actively seeking information and actively trying to find new information to make sure you get it right. So learning is one of the great things you get with the blog, which is very personal education, and you can spread that education around. It also, of course, helps you hone your writing skills. If you're an average writer, over time, I think you will improve. You'll figure out what works best for you, and it improves your style as well. So honing your writing skills is one of the great things you get out of a blog. It puts a human face on what your company is all about. I'm sure Mel would back me up on this, and with his comments that people know a little bit more about what Classic Exhibits is because of the blog, because of the people that are engaged in the blog. They know who you are. They can put a face to it. Your company is no longer a faceless entity, a corporate entity. So the blog helps you become human. You can put all sorts of graphics and illustrations and photos on there. People can see who you really are.
That may actually be one of the most important elements to a blog, is that it does put a personality to the company.
I think so too. It also helps to build that community. If you can put out content that people like, they will share around. People will learn more about you as time goes on, and you slowly build this community over time that people share your information, share about you, and it just goes back to networking. It's just one of the great things. People know who you are, and they know that you're a human, you know you're a real person, and then you're part of that community. You kind of what a lot of people like to call a tribe. You've got a tribe of people that kind of follow you, that you can have some sort of influence over. So what else do you get with a blog? Well, you create value, I think, by being who you are. You get to show off who you are, and that for some people is hard to do. A blog makes it much easier to do. It just gives you a chance to kind of get on your soapbox or to share things that you find important. It humanizes you, but that's a very valuable thing. You can also share a fresh perspective. I have written a number of things that have surprised me about how people have said, I've never thought about that. And it's great because I read other things. I kind of put a few things together, and I write a small little blog post about it, and it's a perspective that maybe a lot of people haven't seen, so you can share that perspective with those blog readers. If you have a story to tell, there's nothing wrong with telling your story on your blog. We'll talk more about how to create content and how to position that content and how not to do too much about yourself, but there's certainly a little bit, and you have to put stuff in there that is about yourself. I think that's very critical. You just don't want to overdo it. But telling your story is very, very important. And as time goes on, there's more aspects and more chapters to that story, and so you can continue to tell that story. I think every blog post you write really is part of your story. As you gain more knowledge in the industry, you can contribute that. More people get to know about it. I think one of the key things that surprised me is that I wrote a lot about QR codes here a year or two ago, and I just kind of latched on to QR codes and started writing about them. And I was surprised how much response I got from that topic. I probably wrote 4 or 5 posts in a year on QR codes, and actually put together a short little ebook on how to do QR codes correctly. And it was really kind of satisfying because I found this thing, did a lot of research, found out what was good about them, what was not good about them, and shared that knowledge. It was great to contribute that bit of knowledge, and a lot of people have come to me and said, hey, I hear you're really knowledgeable about QR codes. Can you answer a question? So that helps to contribute knowledge. So that's one of the things that I think you get out of blogging. And of course, if you have a blog, it's active content. There's a lot of new content that goes online, and search engines, in particular Google, love blogs. They love new content, and people can find you. So you gain more visibility in your industry and online that you would not normally have had.
One of the amazing things that I've found about Google and blogs is that the moment we post a blog on our trade show tales, within 15 to 20 minutes, I can do a search within Google, and Google has already found it.
Yeah, it's just automatic. Especially if they know who you are and they've seen you, their little spiders are out there. Their bots are finding you, and new content is noticed very quickly. And with all the social media sharing, in fact, with your Google Plus and a lot of the other platforms out there, that can spread through the social media atmosphere or blogosphere or whatever you want to call it very quickly. And so, Google loves this stuff, and the more you put out there, the more you'll get found. And also, I believe you can collect useful information because people will offer their perspective and something you might not have heard. So you'll find that you're getting information that you didn't previously have, which is also very useful. So there, of course, are some challenges to blogging, and it is a commitment, as Mel and I have talked about. It does take time. It does take a commitment to do this. Creating content is not always the easiest thing. Some people are able to have 100 ideas and they jot them down, and they'll go bang out a blog post in 20 minutes, and that's that. They don't think about it. Other people, it's a struggle to get 100 words out. So for some people, it's not always easy to create content. You have to kind of have your radar up for what might be a good blog post. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. That's kind of the saving grace of blogging and creating content, is the more you do it, the easier it gets. And you have to remember, if you're starting a blog, traffic does start slowly. You won't get 3,000 readers a month overnight. After time, you can certainly get there. But it's one of those things that just does not happen very quickly at the beginning. One thing about blogging is that it is a marketing effort, but there is not an end date like other marketing efforts. If you're going to a trade show, you're going to do a direct mail piece, there's a start and stop date to that. Well, this marketing effort, which is really what blogging is ongoing. So the measurements are ongoing as well. So you have to keep in mind there's not an end date like there are other marketing efforts. When it comes to writing conversationally on a blog, a lot of people are not used to it, and so that can be a challenge for some people. It's unnatural. You might want to figure out who the best voices are to represent your company. Depending on who those people are, they might be very good at writing, and you have to look around and see, okay, can the designer contribute a blog post this month? And you make those commitments. And Mel, you and I talked about this yesterday, about how this would actually work. So if you have a comment, I'd like to hear it.
Yes, well, I think as far as the voices, I think more than anything, you need to have a gatekeeper for the blog, one person who kind of controls it. In our situation, we have some people who actually go into the back end and write in the back end, and then I will go through and do some editing for them. I don't change the content, but I'll do some editing. Other people, because of their either time commitment or other elements, they don't want to write it exactly within the blog itself. They send the topics to me, and then I put it in it. But more than anything, these are folks that on our end is we put them on, or we ask them if they want to contribute. If they do, we ask them for a kind of time commitment, and we put it on the schedule. People are much more inclined to contribute if they know that they have to make a contribution, let's say every month or every 6 weeks, instead of just kind of leaving it open-ended out there. That way you have a schedule or a calendar of blog posts, and people can think about it, especially as their deadline comes about.
And I think those dynamics are different from a single blogger like myself in a company. There's a lot of corporate blogs out there, and figuring where that content is, and as you put it, the gatekeeper, and someone's got to organize that and make sure that that happens on a timely basis, so you don't see 3 months go by with nothing showing up in the blog, and then a month later you've got 17 posts in a week. So certainly figuring all that out within a company is going to be one of those things you're going to have to address. So I think another thing is, who's your audience, and make sure that whatever you write is aimed at that audience. So that is a challenge for some people, but I think really we know who our audience should be. Understanding them as time goes by is going to improve, I think. And so you want to learn how to write to that audience, and you'll know when something resonates with them because you'll really hear about it. You'll get good comments, you'll get feedback, and so understanding your audience and writing to that audience is one of those things that can be a challenge for some people, maybe not for others. A blogger for some companies actually may be so good at it that they could become more popular than the company itself. And when Mel asked about this, I said, well, the one example that comes to mind is a guy named Robert Scoble, who was working in a division of Microsoft, started blogging 6 or 7 years ago. When it first started, he was so good at it and so prolific at it that he ended up splitting off from Microsoft, starting his own company and building his name as a brand. And so he didn't, I don't know, become more popular than Microsoft itself, but he certainly took away from what he was doing with them and just left and did his own thing because he was so good at it and so popular. So that's probably not a huge challenge or a huge danger, but it can happen. Just be aware that you may have a blogger, a hidden blogger in your company that is just really good and may take over the thing. And his personality is so strong online. It's interesting because there are some people who are very quiet and then they put him behind a keyboard and they all of a sudden become very eloquent and very thoughtful, and they have some great content out there. In blogging, it can be hard to measure your success. How many readers do you have? What kind of traffic do you have? Are comments important or comments not? 4 or 5 years ago, the comments were one of the key measurements, but nowadays a lot of the comments actually go to Facebook and Twitter, and some of the people that were getting great comments on their blogs are not seeing them, but those comments are going elsewhere. They're not on the blog. So what do you actually measure? Do you need to measure sales? Are you trying to get sales? So we'll talk about objectives when you start talking about blogging as well. Do you need to get feedback from your clients? So there's a lot of things that you want to try and measure. There are some metrics in here. There are certainly ways with analytics that you can find how many readers you have, what kind of traffic you have, measure the content, and internally you can track sales and things like that, but it's not one of those things that you can immediately plug into. So that may be a challenge in and of itself, is how to measure the success of your blog. After a year, can you say, gosh, was it worth it to get involved and put all this time and energy into it? Well, in a lot of ways, yes. In a lot of ways, it could be better. So that can be a challenge along the way. So let's look at blog promotion. First of all, one of the key elements, one of the basic things is that when you have a blog, it has to be tied to your website in some fashion. A lot of companies will make the blog just part of the website, and a lot of other companies will want it to stand separately with a separate URL, and that's what I've done. I've got my company website, plus I've got the Trade Show Guy blog website differently, but they're linked back and forth. You can find one from the other and go back and forth. So there should be a link so that when people get to your company website, they know that you have a blog and it's easy to find. So that's one of the main things you do. That's one of the basic things to do. You can promote every post you have if you have a Twitter account. If you don't, obviously, it's not something you can do. But Twitter's, to me, has just become more and more valuable as time goes on. It is amazing to me how much traffic I get through Twitter. And so if you are not on Twitter or not active on Twitter, but you have an account, I would look more at figuring out how to make that as a part of your blog promotion as well. Certainly, if you have a Facebook page, mention everything that you do on your blog on your Facebook page, using all these elements to drive traffic back and forth. Kind of look at your blog as your home base, and all these other things, Twitter, Facebook, your other website, YouTube, as kind of people that are standing away, and you're just driving traffic from those elements to your blog. So they all tie in together. YouTube is a great place to promote your blog as well. LinkedIn, absolutely. Classic Exhibits has gone far enough to create a group, which is a great way to promote their blog, and vice versa. So I think all these things tie in together. And don't forget, if you have an email list, when you put a blog post on your blog, let people know about it via email. I try and do that every couple of weeks. I send out a new email to the list that I have so that I can make sure that those people are aware of the blog post that I've just put out so they can go read it. And, of course, you have the sharing buttons there. So you ask your guests to tweet and post and share to all these places as well. So you're getting other people driving traffic to your blog as well. So blog promotion, a lot of the basics right there about how to do that. You can also hand out cards or let people know about your blog at trade shows and events. If you're a speaker, make sure you mention the blog. Oh, by the way, I was blogging about this, and you can reach the blog at so-and-so. So trade shows and events are a good place to mention your blog and promote them. Make sure you put the URL on your business card. It's very prominent on my business card because that's one of the main things I do. I always put a blog link into my email signature file, the SIG file, so that when that goes out, it's automatic. People can see it. Don't know that I get a lot of traffic from it, but they know that it's there, and some people, I'm sure, do click on it if it's in the email SIG files. It's better to have it there than not have it there. And, of course, search engine optimization is very important for organic traffic, and we'll talk about that in a little bit about how to build your blog title and the first sentence and that sort of thing to make sure people are able to find that topic. And you have an RSS feed. That's what your blog is an RSS feed. You can promote that as well so people can subscribe to that and get it in their email or their RSS reader. Typically it comes in email these days. I don't know a lot of people that actually have the RSS reader, but some people do. And I have an RSS feed on mine, and I subscribe to it so I can see how that comes in. It just shows up in my email about half a day after I put a blog post up in it, and so I can see that it actually is still working.
Tim?
Yes.
Tim, one of the things that I'm always surprised about, and I guess I shouldn't be, but I'm certainly flattered about once a month someone will reach out to me and want to, and they've seen a blog post and they want to share that blog post on their blog post, or they have an article database of some kind. Those kind of promotions are simply invaluable. People are looking for content, and the great thing about blog posts is over time you build up content that people want to reuse that content for their own, and almost everyone is very polite and very good about cross-promoting.
Yeah, in fact, I just got an email from a guy I know, a promoter back east about an hour ago, who said, because he had asked me a week ago if he could use one of my blog posts. I said, yeah, by all means, just give me attribution. Nothing's wrong with that. And so he's printing it or posting it on his blog in the next couple of days, and he sent me a screenshot of what it's going to look like, and it's got a link back to my blog and a link back to my company website. So sharing blog posts, being a guest blogger, as it were, is a great way to promote your blog. In fact, that's kind of what's next. That's similar blogs to exchange links. So that's kind of like a blog roll on the side of your blog. A lot of people will share links to other blogs in the industry, so that, you know, if you want to read more about this industry, that's easy to do. So I share blog links, and a lot of other blogs link back to my blog as well. Obviously, when you speak to groups, you want to mention that you're a blogger and what the blog is. You can still submit your blog to search engines and directories. A lot of people don't do this. You know, you start a new website, let all those search engines know about it. If you don't know how to do it, just search for how to submit your blog. It seems to be one of those things that used to be done a long time ago, but nowadays I don't think people think about this much. I think it's still a valuable thing, because that makes sure, especially if it's a new blog, that it gets submitted to all those search engines and they are aware of you. And look for directories as well in your industry, and see if you can submit to those. If you want to target some specific folks, by all means send them an email. You can do that as well. So great ideas for blog promotion there. And what about encouraging comments? Well, I alluded to comments a little bit earlier. If you are going to have comments, and I think you should, remove barriers to commenting and respond to them. I think Mel and I are on the same page with this, that comments are very valuable, and when someone does comment, make sure that you acknowledge that comment. Make sure readers know who wrote what. Often a blog setup will have the admin as the default, so when a comment comes in and was written by admin, I think that's probably more old-fashioned than the current version of WordPress, but some blog software still has that setup, so it's one of those technical things. You know, you can encourage contests. Have contests so that people are, you know, I want to get 50 comments for this blog, and we'll give a prize away to someone. I've seen that, and so that all of a sudden gets a whole bunch of people commenting. So you can do that as well if you want comments. Nothing wrong with encouraging comments. And again, at the end of a post, just say, hey, I'd like to hear what you think about this. Please comment below. I think there is one issue with comments, and that is spam, and you have to like I say, remove barriers, but you also have to moderate them. But moderating them really means that when a comment comes in and you see it come in, because you'll get notified in your email that someone has commented, you can check it real quick to see if it's a valid comment or if it's someone trying to sell boots or something on your trade show blog, which happens to me all the time, by the way. I get all sorts of spam that never goes on. But moderating the comments is really what that is. And so when I get a valid comment, I'll approve it and then make a comment on it. And how about naming your blog? Should you name a blog? Mel, you had some thoughts on this. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think it does, because I think the blog is like a title to a post, and people need to know kind of what your topic is about. A lot of companies, organizations don't do it. They'll just have a link on their site that says blog. But if we go back to the whole concept of personality, that a blog is really one tool for communicating the personality of your organization, I think the blog should have a title. And you're a great example of that, Tim, in that people know you by the title of your blog.
Yeah, and on your trade show tales, I think is a great title as well, because it stands out. It kind of separates that from the rest of your, even though it's included in your website, it makes it stand out, and it is separate from that, so that people know, oh, I'm going to the blog, and here's the name of it. And when you send emails out promoting your blog posts, because every Sunday night you send something out for your Monday morning post, we know what the name of the blog is. So naming your blog. So what does that mean when it comes to naming your blog? Well, it certainly should describe your blog to those particular readers so that they know what they're getting into, and it must be fairly accurate. Should be pretty easy to remember. If it's too long or too plain, it'll be hard to remember. An unusual name will be easier to remember than a normal name, and something that's fairly short would be easy to remember. Your title of your blog, if possible, should equal your domain, and not everyone does this, but I chose that to make it easier for people to find me and for people to remember me. So tradeshowguyblog.com is actually the name of the blog, and it's the name of the domain, so it's easy to find. Company blogs don't need a name, but I think if you do have a name on it, it does help you stand out a bit from the other blogs that don't have a name. That's not the only thing that will help you stand out. Good content, consistent content will help you stand out, but naming your blog, I think, is something you should give some key consideration to. What about what every blog should have? Let's take a look at some things we think every blog should have. It should be very consistent. Now, consistency is different things to different blogs. For instance, when I started out, I really tried to blog 2 to 3 times a week, and I did that for the longest time. And then it came to where I was actually blogging about once a day, 5 days a week. Backed off from that, and for a while I was so busy I could only blog once every couple of weeks. But I really tried, once I changed that consistency, to stick to that, and so that it didn't go vacant or dead or dormant for a long time. And there's actually a blogger that I know who's very popular. He's in the marketing industry, Scott Stratton, with a blog called Unmarketing. Well, he only blogs about once every 6 weeks. But his audience expects that. So every 6 weeks or so he has a blog, and he really just tries to make it a great blog post. His opinion is, or outlook is, that, why blog every day? I don't have anything to say every day. I want to make sure that when I put something in there, it's worth doing. And so consistency is one of the keys. And consistency can mean once a day. Some blogs actually have several bloggers, and they post several times a day. And others are posting, like Scott, every 6 weeks. So as long as your audience knows what to expect, I think that's where the consistency comes from. Your blog should have a personality. You've got human beings writing these things, and so that personality should come through. Uniqueness. It's a little harder to define what makes you unique, but if there's a way you can stand out being one of a kind, I think that really makes it important. And of course, content. Content is very important. You've got to have good content that keeps people coming back for more, because if they read something they like and they'll subscribe to an RSS feed or your email newsletter, then they'll keep hearing about it and keep coming back for more. A blog should also be designed very well. There's a lot of blogs out there that are kind of boring to look at, and if it's not easy to look at, or not even fun to look at, or not good to look at, a lot of people will say, the content is okay, but I don't want to come back here because it's boring or bland or not designed well. There should be certainly enough white space in there. There should be enough visual eye candy, as it were, good photographs, good design. All that is very, very important to the success of a blog. Aaron Wall, who's the author of the SEO book, had one of my favorite quotes about blogging. You know, it's not about writing one key post. It's just really about doing it day after day and helping a few people at a time. A lot of the blog posts I write come out of a question that someone asked me. You know, how do I get blankety blank at a trade show? I don't know how to do that. And that gives me an idea to write a blog post. And I think that's very key. So you're helping people, a couple of people at a time, day after day. That's really, really key. How often do you blog? Again, this goes back to consistency. I think one of the things is, what are your goals? You know, do you want people to read your blog every single day? Are you trying to establish your name in the industry? So, you know, figure out what your goals are first before you try and answer the question, how often should you blog? Are you trying to be branding yourself? Are you looking for sales? Are you trying to create more leads? Are you looking to be, you know, someone who's actually sharing information in the industry which positions you as a thought leader or a market leader? So what are your goals? So this ties into the question, how often should you blog? And of course there are more than one school of thought. Yes, go ahead, Mel.
If I would add, it can be all of those.
It could.
Goals can be all of those goals. It doesn't have to be just one, but you need to be clear about what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, and how often, again, we talked about consistency. There's certainly more than one school of thought on that. But again, consistency and quality of content are key to being a successful blogger. What are your reader expectations? You should establish what your reader expectations are by maybe an introduction. If you start a blog, the first thing you should say is, hey, I'm going to blog once a week, you know, or I'm going to be here once a month, or I'm going to be here every other day with something new. And that depends on how much you're able to commit to writing to that, or gathering people in your organization to write. So establish your readers' expectations and meet them. And let's talk about content. You know, the bottom line is, if you have a bad blog that doesn't have good content, no one will read you. They might come once, but they won't come back. Self-centered content rarely gets read. Now, what I mean about this is that I've seen a number of blogs, and I do this periodically. I'll go look through the exhibit industry for blogs, and I find exhibit companies or people that are in the industry that have a blog, but so many of the posts are about themselves. They're about, you know, our CEO got an award and he went to New York. You know, we have a press release we want you to read about here. It's all very inwardly looking. It's self-centered. Those types of blog posts do not get readers because, frankly, most of your people don't care. What you need to do is solve problems. Your blog is not about you or your company. It's about solving the problems of your readers. So know your audience, know what their issues are, know what their challenges are, and if you're helping to address those issues and challenges, you will find yourself with a lot of readers. Again, solve a problem, offer insight into what's going on in the industry. If you have great ideas, make sure you share them. If you can figure out a way to do something it used to take them an hour and they can now do it in 5 minutes because you figured out a shortcut, by all means, tell them. These are the types of blog posts that people like and we'll share and we keep coming back to. You can also find great ideas by reading other blogs in and out of your industry. I think it's very critical that you know what's going on out there. I read a lot of blogs, and I read a lot of blogs that are not part of the trade show marketing or the social media industry. I read business blogs. I read entertainment blogs. I just am curious to see what's out there. And a lot of that information kind of distills and kind of shows up in things that I'm doing in my blog. So reading and being aware of what's out there helps to create content for you. And of course, the bottom line is, if you have something that you're giving that is very, very valuable, people will keep coming back. And that's why I capitalize that. If you are giving value, people will recognize it, and they will appreciate it, and they will let people know about it, and they will continue to read your blog. So in your company, how do you find potential bloggers? Because if you've committed to a blog and you want other people involved, well, you know, how do you find those people? One question I like to ask clients is, who are the digital natives in your organization? And by digital natives, I mean people that are adept at writing, at posting content, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, or they got a Tumblr account, or they're on, they'd like to do videos on YouTube. Even if you know that's all personal, these people know what's going on. They understand how that technology works. These are the digital natives in your organization. So, you know, you can find them in a lot of different places. They could be in accounting. They could be in the design room. They could be someone out in production that just has a knack for it. And maybe you want to give them an hour a week to write a blog post or something. Of course, you got to find out who they are, and then you got to find out would they even be interested. So these are all ways to kind of figure out who those potential bloggers are. And then once you figure out who those people are, maybe you've got 3 or 4 people, find out if they can commit to a blog post every month or 2. And then if you do that, you've got a consistent series of content that is coming in that you can post on your blog. So I think it's important to probably identify, depending on the size of your organization, every organization is a little different, identify people in your organization that you feel might make good bloggers or blog contributors. And I think if you have enough people, try and identify 4 of them. Identify also 4 people in the industry that you might approach to write an occasional guest blog post. I think that's a great idea, because if you can find these people that want an outlet but don't want to be committed to actually having a blog, owning a blog, being a part of a blog other than a guest blogger, that's another way to identify content and potential bloggers, is outside of your company but in your industry. A consultant, some sort of expert. It could be from a vendor that you have that is a colleague. And so you can find potential bloggers in a lot of different areas outside of your company as well.
Here's one of the things that I would add, Tim, as well, is that over time, there is a little bit of ego stroking that goes on with it. I mean, I'm thinking about one of the blog posts that one of our folks wrote about distributors and about working with distributors from a kind of manufacturer's viewpoint. And when it was posted, it got a moderate amount of reads. But over time, I would say at least every week there's probably 5 to 6, as people are searching for that particular topic in general, that topic comes up in Google and that blog post gets read. And it has gotten read over the last couple years, probably 100 times more than it got read on the initial broadcast.
Right. It's funny how that works when you republish, repost things and share. Some things take on a life of their own. It just is quite amazing sometimes. I've seen things go on. The QR code thing kind of, you know, I kept having people approach me about QR codes. I had no idea that there was so much interest in it. And there's a lot actually negative pushback on QR codes as well, because some people think they're cutesy and they don't really work. But again, I learned something that I didn't know before, and it just kind of took off. So, yeah.
And the other point, if you're the gatekeeper of the blog, or you're the person responsible for it, is let the people know who are contributing what kind of feedback they're getting, letting them know what kind of reads they're getting. Even if it's 6 months, 8 months, what I try to do is share that information so they know that it wasn't just a one-time thing, that their post has gotten traction, that it continues to be a valuable part of not only the blog, but the kind of blogosphere in general.
Yeah, and then that certainly helps, as you talk about the ego stroking. They know they're getting feedback. That's very, very important, and it will go on. You know, I've gotten comments on stuff that's 2 and 3 years old. All of a sudden, the comment shows up, and someone found it because they were searching for something on that topic. You know, to me as a blogger, well, I wrote that 2 or 3 years ago. But all of a sudden someone found it, it was valid to them, and they commented on it, and you realize, maybe I should readdress that. And that's also where you can get ideas for blog posts, is to go back and find something that could be updated. And there's a new thing that you haven't thought about, a new aspect of something you wrote about a couple of years ago that could be very valid today. So let's talk about creating great posts. What do you need to do? Well, of course, you choose a topic. Now you think, well, of course I got to choose a topic, but here's the deal. A lot of people will try and write about several topics in one blog post. And so figure out what that specific topic is and then focus just on that. If you've got a number of things, make several blog posts out of it. Hey, it's free, right? It's just like when you're creating a PowerPoint. Slides are free. So you can create any number of blog posts out of a broader topic by narrowing that down. So figure out what the topic is. Number one, choose a topic. You need a good title. It draws people in. That's the first thing. The second thing is a good title describes what's going on there, and the search engines love that as well. So make sure the keyword that you are trying to get people to find is in that title. It's in the title for both the people, and it's in the title for the Google search engines. Hook them with an opening line. Your opening sentence should be something that is very important. It leads them down, so you have the good sentence. Any writer from high school journalism, which is where I started all this writing stuff, you want to write a good hook. What's the lead? Well, the hook is what leads them to the second sentence. The second sentence leads them to the third sentence, and on all the way through. And the other thing is, search engines will not only look at the title of the blog, they'll look at the first 80 to 100 characters of that opening line, and they'll index that as well. And if the keywords are in there, it becomes easier to find as well, and more people will find it. So a good title and a good opening line.
I'm going to take it for the group out there. I'm going to take some of the pressure off you. You absolutely need a good opening line, but don't worry about that opening line as you're writing your post. Write the post, then go back based on everything you've written, and then construct that opening line. If you kind of sweat over the opening line, it may kind of block you from writing the rest of the post. Don't worry about that.
I think that's a good point. One of the things that they taught me when I was learning to write articles in journalism was write the article. The lead will come somewhere out of the article. So, tell the story first, and then you'll read it back a couple times and think, oh, well, here's what should be the opening line. What you thought was the opening line may not be. So I think that's a good point, because writing the post is the important thing, and then once you do that, you can figure out what is the most important opening line, and you can put that there. So. And then, of course, a little bit different from choosing a topic, but what is the point of your post? Is there something you're really trying to say here? Make sure that you say what you want to say. So what is the point of the post? Often a call to action is important, like, now that you've read this, if you want to go make a QR code, here's how to do it. Go to this website, create a QR code. Tell people how to do it by a call to action. Adding more depth is really a great way to create a great post. If you, for instance, if I see a post on trade show tales that I want to chime in, and I'll refer to that, maybe quote it, and then put my 2 cents worth in. So sharing that as well, that's also great for networking and getting the links back and forth. But adding more depth to a topic by commenting on another blog post or other topic is also a great way to come up with an idea for a great post. I think one other thing that I don't even have a bullet point in here for is that you should open up or start a Word document that allows you to just put ideas down there, whether it's a sample title, and I usually have a working document that's got 8 or 10 or 15 ideas. I actually talked to one blogger who's been blogging for a long time. He says, yeah, my idea file has about 500 in it at any given time. And I just thought, okay, that's a little overkill, but it works for him. So, create your idea bank, as it were, and when you see something, put it in there, and you'll eventually get around to writing about it or deciding it's not worth writing about. Links are very, very important. I think links are great in blog posts because that gives people a chance to find the related topic that you're talking about, but it can be overdone. There are some news stories and blog posts I've read that you read 500 words and there's 30 links in there. That's probably overdoing it. A couple is probably fine. So links are very important, and I think that they do matter. If you find yourself linking to other blogs and that blog links back to you, that also helps your search engine optimization, because the search engines, Google, they really like the fact that other blogs are linking to you, because that gives you more validity. So when you link to other people, chances are they will link back to you at some point, or at least it encourages them to do that. And, of course, quality control. As you put a great post together, make sure that all the words are spelled correctly. Make sure the grammar is correct. I nitpick on grammar. Mel, you nitpick on grammar too, don't you, Mel? I know you do.
I do, but I guess I'm not encouraging other people to be as nitpicky as we are. Don't let that be a barrier.
Yeah, don't let that stop you. If it's one of those things where you're not sure if it's where the apostrophe goes, or whether those little tiny things go, don't worry about it. Just get it in there. You'll figure it out along the way. So, but quality control, I think, is something that you should keep in mind. And I think graphics are very important. I'd try and put some sort of graphic photograph or icon or drawing or something in every single post, because I think that spreads it out. It makes it a little bit bigger. It makes it easier to read instead of just text from top to bottom of the post. Graphics are very, very important. Excuse me. And there's a couple of places to get these. Flickr, actually, you can find a lot of graphics there by searching via keywords. And most of the photos, but not all, most of them are Creative Commons, which means you can use them as long as you attribute the use. Okay, this photograph by John. In fact, I think this photograph right here on this page, it says photo by Perola Weiberg. Now, that was, I think, a Flickr photograph. And I can use that for free as long as I give attribution. I can use that in a lot of different ways. Another great source of photography, especially some historic photography, which is kind of interesting, is Wikimedia. If you go searching for Wikimedia, it's kind of a repository of millions of photographs and icons and logos and things that are free to use. They're public domain. And what's interesting to me is if you're trying to find a picture of a famous person, and you certainly haven't got a picture that you've taken, if you go and find one, those are almost always copyrighted. But if you look in Wikimedia, there might be a couple there, because a lot of photographers want to get their stuff out there, but they don't mind contributing a picture or two of theirs for free publication. I've done this a number of times and found pictures. Sometimes there's only one or two there, but you can use them. They're free of charge. Again, they're Creative Commons, and you just give attribution. some of them are in the public domain, which means you don't even have to give attribution. But graphics are very, very important, I think, to the look and feel of a great post. Other types of content that you might consider as you go along include video. This is, of course, a flip cam. Nowadays, flip cams were hot for about, 2.5 years, and I still have mine. I love it. I use it, but I also have an iPhone which has great video on it as well. You can take video and you can edit it. Video editing software is quite easy to, it's low cost. It's pretty easy to learn how to use. Video is very, very cool to put on your blog. Podcasting. Podcasting is probably a little, deserves a longer conversation at some point, but all it really takes is a microphone that plugs into a USB port and some audio editing software, and you're off and running, and you can put audio onto your website as well as a podcast. Slideshows, if you create a PowerPoint or a keynote, you can post them on your blog. One way to do that is to post them on SlideShare and then just embed them, like you embed a video via YouTube. So slideshows are kind of cool. Photographs, of course, we talked a lot about photographs. You can put a quiz on your blog and get people to chime in on some issue that you're asking them. And you can make it a short-term thing, or you can make it kind of an open-ended thing. So quizzes to get people to interact with you, which is very, very important online. You can also hold a contest, and of course, if you have a contest on a blog, you can have a time limit on that. You can have a contest for people to comment, to submit their name and address for whatever prize you've got. But again, these are the types of content that you might consider for your blog. So there's more than just writing an article. You can produce a video, you can produce an audio, you can produce a slideshow, you can base something around a photograph or a series of photographs. You've got a library, an album that you can share, along with other interactives like quizzes and contests. You can also put company or industry news. Now, we talked about the danger of doing too much about your company and being too self-centered, but if you have something significant, I think that is something to consider. And if it's a good piece of news, you certainly want to share that. Press releases, again, vet those. You might just have a link from your blog to the actual archive of the press release on your main website in your press area, your media area. But there's nothing wrong about putting a link to that and saying, okay, our company's done X, we won this award, here's the full story here. In fact, in your blog post, you might find a way to personalize that as well that may not be in the actual press release. You can talk about the people that helped make that happen, and maybe talk about how that affects your clientele. So press release, as long as it is handled properly, nothing wrong with putting that in a blog post as well. New products, certainly something you can talk about when it comes to blogging. Again, you don't want to get too self-centered and try and sell something here, but if it's a sort of a product that you're really excited about sharing, and I know Classic Exhibits does a great job of this, there's nothing wrong with letting people know about something new that you've got. I think that's a great place for a blog. Humor is interesting. Mel and I have done a couple of humor posts over the years. We try anyway, and I think humor is a really hard thing to do. Ask any stand-up comedy, comic, and I think that humor is one of the hardest things to do. If you can pull it off, it can be very effective. If you don't pull it off and it falls flat on your face, it doesn't work. Satire is kind of fun. Parodies, those are kind of fun. That's humor. And there are certainly some areas of humor that you need to stay away from. And I'm sure you know what those are as well. You've tried humor, haven't you, Mel?
We've done a lot of humorous articles on there. You have to be comfortable with it because it's not going to resonate with everyone. Some of the recent ones we did was if kittens ran trade shows or if puppies ran trade shows, and it was almost kind of a BuzzFeed type of look about it with a lot of photos and a little title on each one. And it was just meant to be lighthearted for people to get there. And the great thing about those particular ones is you can put it on the blog, and then you can also go into the groups, for instance, LinkedIn, that you're a member of that you feel are appropriate, and put those out there as well, and it'll drive a lot of people to your site. And you're not overtly doing a commercial for yourself. You're giving people content that's on your blog, things that they want to read, and most people appreciate that.
Yeah, and the other thing you consider is doing some sort of post that provokes people to action or thinks, you're being provocative. Nothing wrong with being provocative. I think that's a really cool thing to do, as long as you can do it within the confines of who you are and who your company is. You can certainly provoke people as well. When should you post? Well, days of the week, in industry, most of the best days of the week, last I read, I was just doing some research on this, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are great days to post. You should avoid holidays. You should avoid weekends for most business blogs. Time of day, research has shown over the years, but the best time of day to let a post go public is in the morning, like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. But again, test with your own audience. Your own audience may be a little bit different. And so you should probably experiment with this. This is not a critical piece of blogging, but certainly something to work on. And another thing is, if you put something up on Monday, and you normally post every 4 or 5 days, but you all of a sudden have an extra couple of posts, don't put something up on Monday night, because what happens is on blog that pushes that first post down below that. Give it a chance to sit there for a while so that it can breathe, I guess, and let people see it. And then just time your other one so that it comes up a day or two later. For instance, I had 3 blog posts, I think, starting last Friday. One showed up one showed up Monday, and one showed up Friday, because I didn't want them to be too close together. But they were done, and I just put them up, and you can schedule when they're going to come out. So we're going to take a quick look at the back office of Trade Show Guide with WordPress only, but I do want to talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts of blogging. I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the ways you can blog, some of the platforms. Blogger.com is a free platform. Typepad has been used by a lot of people. WordPress is probably the most popular and most used, which is what I use. Self-hosted WordPress. Yeah, WordPress.com is a site where you would set up a site, I believe, that would be like tradeshowguide.wordpress.com. So you're on their site, and there are some limitations to that. However, you can do a self-hosted WordPress, which is, tradeshowguideblog.com. I get the software. The software is free. You just download it and install it, and as they say, the famous 5-minute install. But I own it completely, and the software gets updated whenever they have a new update out there. So there's the 2 different things there. And there's other things out there like Joomla and Squarespace and Drupal and Ruby on Rails. I'm not familiar with a lot of those, but I know when it comes to blogging, there's a lot of different platforms that you can do. And Tumblr is actually one that I've seen lately. I recently set up something on Tumblr I'm experimenting with, because it's something you can put videos and pictures on and really short posts. It's almost like Twitter on steroids in a sense, because you can do more than 140 characters, but it's kind of built for people to read quickly. It's kind of a mini or micro blogging platform. Tumblr is kind of fun, and it's very popular these days. So let me go to the Trade Show Guide blog dashboard here. So let me just log in. So if you look here, this is the first thing you get here when you get to the dashboard. It kind of gives you a little idea of what you can do, what's going on. You can look at where your posts are. You can add new posts. If you want to look at your media library, there's tons of photographs in there. I'm not going to show you this whole thing. I mean, we could really spend a couple hours or half a day on this, but I'm just kind of giving you a look at what I have here. Over time, I've gotten 2,500 comments. I've approved almost 500 of them. There's a few pending, and I've looked at them, and they're not going to go on because they're not appropriate. But yes, there's a lot of spam there as well. Pages, I can look at all the pages. I'll just look at some of the pages here. Some are published, some are not. You know, I have an About Me and About You page. I've got some things that are kind of on hold right now. Just kind of a quick look at what the back office of WordPress is. If I want to look at all the posts here, I can go in and edit them if I'd like. And this is the one that's actually coming out on Friday. I think I've got it set. I'll show you what the story is with that. So this is scheduled for December 5th. 6:10 a.m. and it's a post that you'll see about how you can liven up and improve your events by finding ideas on Twitter. Just an idea I came up with last week and wrote and realized that I had another blog post ready to go this Monday. It was actually a guest post. I didn't want them running back to back, so that will show up. If you were to log in at 6:09, you wouldn't see it. If you were to refresh it a minute later, you would see it because that's exactly what that setting is for.
Certainly one of the great things about it is you'll noticing is it's all WYSIWYG. It's very similar to anybody who writes in Word. You've got the icons. You don't have to know code. You can bold, italicize, add links. You can import stuff from the text or from a Word document. There are just so many tools there that make it really easy beyond belief as far as creating a blog.
Yeah, and I would really encourage if anyone's considering a blog or has committed to it and hasn't committed to a piece of software yet, I would say WordPress is the way to go simply because I've used it. It's quite easy. I got into it early and it was very intuitive to figure it out along the way. So that's really, I mean, we could look at this forever, but again, I just think that a quick look behind the back office, as they say, at Trade Show Guy blog. Mel and I talked about that, and he said, "Yeah, we should do that." I said, "Okay, well, here it is then." So that's what you've got. So, and I think that's really all that I have, Mel.
Well, we've been answering questions as we've been going along. Please, does anyone else have any other questions that they would like to pose within the questions session? Both Tim and I will be happy to answer those. I think I've posted all the answers out there as they've come through. There have been some excellent, really excellent questions.
Yes, I've seen a few of those, yeah.
He's asked about series, about a blog series, and I just want to talk about that. We've done that a number of times, and those have been very popular. You kind of have to make sure the blog series is within a certain amount of time because people want to click from one to the other. We all like, when we're reading articles on the web, we like articles that are, part one, then at the bottom you can click to part two, you can click to part three. Those are always very popular ones to go over. And the nice thing about a blog, the one thing that I want to kind of point out, and we didn't really talk about the length of a post of a blog, is don't get too hung up. Really, blogs are not long. They're an article length kind of post. Some can be as little as 300 or 400 words. I tend to write posts that are probably a little too long, and I'm guilty of that, but that's kind of, I recognize that within myself. And the other thing is we do a fair amount of seeing articles that are out there that we think are appropriate to our audience. And it's audience or portions of articles or other posts that are out there that we'll simply comment on those as a header and then include a portion of that article within the blog post and link to the article itself. So it doesn't all have to be original content. What you're doing is you're sharing information that you think that your audience would like to know, whether it's information that originated from your company or organization or somebody else, because there's so many interesting things that we see out there that we read that we feel that we want to share. I mean, we do it every day within Facebook. A blog is just one more way to do it, but do it in a more extended format.
And I think the bottom line is, I've just had fun with blogging, and I've met a lot of people, and it's been very valuable to me to brand who I am and to network in the industry. And Yes, I've gotten more out of that than that, but if that's all I've gotten, it would have been worth it because people know who I am, and it's just a fun thing because it gives you a chance to kind of get on a soapbox for a short time and share something, and people appreciate that, and that just means a lot.
Well, Tim, my thanks to you for the webinar. Thank you very much for pulling this together and for allowing us to tap into your knowledge. And also thanks to the folks at Optima for sponsoring this. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please reach out to either Tim or I, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. We've recorded this this webinar, and I will post this webinar on our blog sometime in the next week. So
cool.
Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mel. Appreciate it.